Well, g'day everyone. In keeping with me talking scandals, or talking about Australia's deadliest medical scandal, and going for walks, which gives some of our friends who don't reside in Sydney, Australia, a chance to look at my hood, as the Americans would say, or as I say, my local area here in inner city, Sydney. Here I am. It's in Glebe. If you know that place, this place rather, is a very historic suburb close to Sydney. Very close indeed. So, something to say. Last week, I had run out of my medicinal cannabis, the kind that I need in order to have my muscles function. I have a problem with my nerve function, which stops my muscles from operating. So even walking at this pace is impossible for me without my medicine. And actually, I end up walking like I've got mad cow's disease due to this neurological problem. And then, incredibly, if I get enough cannabinoids, the compounds that come from cannabis, medicinal cannabis, I can inhale it, I can take it as an oil, I can take it as an edible. And if I take it for a couple of days, it actually, my muscles start working sooner than that. It switches off my brain problem, within an hour, really, if I've got it right. But the muscles gain strength about 48 hours later, and I'm able to walk, But what's incredible is last week I was having to lie on my left-hand side, or if I went to the shop, which I had to do a couple of times, I'd have to lean to my left to try and get a lung of air because my right lung, muscles around my right lung weren't working. It was causing huge problems. I actually collapsed twice. On one of the occasions I videoed and I spoke about it, one of my talks, it would be pretty frightening for a lot of people, I think. I think in my case, I'm pretty fed up after having had the Grim Reaper hanging over me most of my life, ever since I was a kid, and having run this contaminated blood group, now called Infected Blood Australia. We've gone by various different names, and the group's been, wiped out because we lost so many people. Then we reform, and here we are now. We used to be called Tainted Blood Product Action Group. I think we started out as HCV Compensation as well. That was another early name. This is going back a long, long time. Almost 30 years. So here we are in Glebe, yeah. I was lying on my left-hand side having to breathe. When I get home, I'd just be lying on my bed, not really walking around and not getting much sleep. So you're sort of lying there thinking, shall I call an ambulance or shall I not? Because if I call an ambulance, then it's major drama, because last time I was taken to emergency, they at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, they actually refused to treat me because I remember the triage nurse, her head flew backwards when she asked how many, jabs had I had. Have I had one? Have I had two? Have I had whatever? And I said, I haven't had any. It's like, what? And it was like a contagion had arrived. And it reminded me of the 1980s, back when I was infected with contaminated blood as a kid. And it reminded me of how people were treated back then. Not very well at all. And in fact, we're still here all these years later, and we still haven't got answers as to what went wrong, around things like how did HIV spread so rapidly in Sydney's blood supply, New South Wales' blood supply, and in Victoria's blood supply, and all around Australia in the 1980s. It's never been explained. It went through the roof. We had a huge amount of people, women giving birth, were given blood contaminated by HIV in the 1980s. Tens of thousands of women, potentially, or thousands of women around Australia were infected with hepatitis C from contaminated blood given during childbirth. It's our biggest medical scandal, and it's only had little old me and brave people like actor Carla Bonner. People like that speaking out before the scandal reaches critical mass, before the mainstream media have woken up. I actually applaud her for her courage, because it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when you've got a big profile like hers and her career to consider. So here I am. This is Glebe Point Road, and see if I might walk up further up. It's a bit busy. I don't want to get knocked over I've actually got a bleeding disorder. So if I break a bone, they won't be able to get the blood in fast enough, I don't think. That's what I've been told. So I had to give up playing football when I was a kid. That really broke my heart. I loved that. I played for Pato Rolara. So that's the who knows? I would have ended up playing for the Roosters East, as an adult. I don't know. I was into soccer as well. Also was a qualified soccer referee. I just loved sport. That was my main thing. I had dreams where I'd wake up late in the weekend. I'd have missed sport. That was my big fear as a kid. What do we got here? Look, there's a pub. Oh, there's a bit of life. There's a bit of life here. And guess what? This is the Toxteth Hotel. Very famous old pub here in Glebe. There's been a few bar and balls in this place, I'll tell you that much. But the Toxteth. Now I think, you know what? A lot of these old historic pubs around Sydney, and actually it's good to see people out having a drink too. It is, because this place has been dead as a doornail because of the extremist public health officials, and they're crazy. They really are crazy. There's the old magistrates, but that pub there, the Toxteth Hotel, a bunch of these historic pubs have actually been bought up by John Singleton. Do you know him? He's the advertising. He's one of Australia's most successful ever developments. Or I think he's from Leichhardt. John Singo, as he's known. He's also best mates with one of the early backers of our campaign for contaminated blood, my mate, the Reverend Bill Cruz, at the Uniting Church Ashfield. He also hosts the radio show on 2GB, much loved national treasure. But that pub and a lot of these historic pubs, I think, were bought by a group that John Singleton. Oh, there's a shop there. There you go, the Thunderbirds. There you go. Oh dear. They closed up business. But yeah, they've been buying up these old pubs, and it reminded me of something. When I was born in the UK. I'm from Scottish, Welsh and Irish background, not English. It's just passing through, and I happened to be delivered at that time. No offence to English people, but yeah, I want to make that clear. My name is Mackenzie. I'm Celtic. I was raised by my Scottish grandmother. The bus is just leading through. He looked like he's going to knock me over then for a second. Anyway, so yeah. My earliest memories really are here in Australia. I arrived here age 4. And in those days, I lived in East Sydney, and I went to Glenmore Road, Paddington, which was the primary school. And my best mate at school was John Singleton's son, Jack. And I haven't spoken about that ever. I'm speaking about it now. So we go past that pub. And in those days, I'm going to let you in on a big secret here that I have never ever told anybody. In 30 years of trying to make noise and get people's attention for Australia's deadliest medical scandal, tens of thousands of people who ended up with viruses as a result of contaminated blood transfusions, given not always in life-threatening situations, right? Yeah, seriously. And these people have been left abandoned. Mates of mine, people in our group, which is now growing. Yeah, but Jack, I haven't seen him since 1981. And when I went to school with him, my name that I used to go by, you ready for this? My big secret? Or am I making a mistake? I think it's time for me to reveal secrets. My health's not been too crash hot, and I'm happy here walking today, showing you what the local area looks like. Certainly got some really great, I love some really old historic Australian buildings. I know they're not old by global standards, European standards, but it was a difficult job building some of these properties back in colonial Australia. Let's have a look at this one. It's a very nice looking place, isn't it? But yeah, my life took a different path than John Singleton's son, Jack, the advertising guru. Jack, I think, is part of the great Singleton. Look at that house, amazing, isn't it? Jack's now part of the Singleton family business. I think they're Australia's biggest advertisers. I haven't kept up, but they've done very well for themselves. My path took a different path, but the secret I was going to tell you was that my name is Charles Mackenzie. It is my name. But the name that I went by at Glenmore Road, and the name that people like Jack, who hasn't heard from me for many years, I now have a new incarnation. My name was Jamie. That's right, Jamie Mackenzie. That's my name. That's my real name. And the reason, to tell you how funny this is, when I was at school at Glenmore Road, a show came on the TV back then, in the 1970s in Australia. It was called The Bionic. Remember The Bionic Man? Well, it was a spin-off of that, and it was called The Bionic Woman. And her name, the character's name in that show, was Jamie Summers. Jamie Summers. So I remember one day turning up at Glenmore Road. Now, Jack didn't do this. I don't think so. Don't remember him doing this. But a whole bunch of kids started going when I walked past. Here he comes, or here she comes. It's the Bionic Woman. And suddenly I realised that the name Jamie was also a girl's name. Now I've got no problem. It's ubiquitous in Scotland. There are a lot of Jamies over in Scotland, Celtic kids, you know. But I thought, oh, okay, I think I don't want to be the Bionic Woman. Now, what happened was my middle name was Charles, and I hated that because it was Prince Charles is called Charles. I really didn't like that either. But what happened was when with tainted blood, what happened was in the early days, you could get in big trouble, you know, because people were very anti talking about HIV or Hep C or any of that. And I had situations where I was spat on. I had people wanting to assault me, all sorts of crazy stuff going back. And, you know, I was a fit guy too, and it was not like I was vulnerable. I would have put up a good defence, but I didn't want that. I just didn't want the trouble. And so to make my life a little safer, I went with Charles for my sort of professional and my activism life, and kept Jamie to friends and family who knew my embarrassing secret that I was, had a similar name to the Bionic Woman. I'm now nearly 50. I think I've recovered from my Bionic Woman, problem. Perhaps I need to see a therapist and what do they call it? Get on the couch. Cognitive, is it the one where they get on the couch and it'll come out my subconscious that I'm still really hurt about being likened to the Bionic Woman. So, there we go. Now, we've only got 15 minutes on these chats. I think I'm 12 and a half minutes in. But it's an excuse to show you some of the scenes. But also, before this video ends, I want to show you something remarkable. You might find it a bit odd, but stay tuned, because I want to show you something. I want to get a couple of bites of this cherry. And what I mean is, I want to talk about beautiful Sydney. I want to talk about the cover-up over Australia's deadliest medical scandal. But whatever happens to me, I want you to know, like I've had bone marrow failure. Been told I've been terminal a couple of times in my life. I've done very well. A lot of young people who didn't in my group. And if you could please support our call for a Royal Commission by clicking on the link in our bio. If you could please keep reposting these videos. Okay, but I want to show you something. Last week, I literally couldn't move because of this left lung, really. And I basically was lying on the couch and I felt very, very ill. I was in a lot of pain. I didn't take prescription painkillers or any of that. I could have pretty much all of them if I wanted. I try to avoid as best as possible because I want the comeback. What is the comeback? Well, as soon as I get my natural medicine, the one that actually works and doesn't cause me side effects or damage my liver or all these terrible things, it opens my lung up and I go from being stuck on the couch to being able to jog. Yeah, that's right. I was bedbound until I met a guy who I love, and that guy's called the Cannabis Blood Brother. And that guy told me how it was possible for people like me with chronic disease and terminal condition to get out of our sick beds. And I got out of mine. And I've got out of mine to run towards justice on behalf of victims of Australia's deadliest medical scandal. Here we go. This lung is now opening. I'm so happy. This is just superb. Hey, you can't beat this. I walk like I've got mad cow's disease when I don't have my medicine. And it's like my life's over. And here I am. Yeah, and I'm feeling good. Please consider medicinal cannabis. And please Thank you for keeping on supporting Infected Blood Australia.